Good evening, Upper Midwest. Jim Shaw here, filling in for Joel Heitkamp. You might know me as a longtime broadcast journalist in North Dakota and Minnesota. Now I am a columnist for Forum Communications. I want to tell you what's happening on the show today. For the second half of the show, we're going to have on Captain Brian Niewind from the North Dakota Highway Patrol. We're going to talk about some of the problems they're dealing with this winter, too many drivers driving when they shouldn't be, and some of the other issues he is facing. But first off, we have to talk about Ukraine. And our first guest knows this issue all too well. Her name is Anastassiya Andrianova. She lives in Fargo, and she was born in Ukraine and has many family members in Ukraine. And Anastassiya, welcome to Down the Road with Joel Heitkamp.
Thank you, Jim. Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, next time let's make it under happier circumstances, that's for sure. Tell us just briefly about now yourself. You were born in Ukraine and you lived in Ukraine for a certain period of time. Tell us the background about that.
Yeah, I was born in Kyiv in Ukraine, and I lived there for the first few years of my life. I moved temporarily to New York City and then went back to Ukraine, pursued my studies, and I've been in the U.S. since the age of 15 or 16. But I've maintained my ties with Ukraine. Both my parents are in Kyiv right now. My brother and his family are in Ukraine. I have cousins, I have an uncle, and I have classmates and dear friends all there. Doing what they can to stay alive.
Have you been able to communicate with your family members who are in Ukraine? And did you say, are they in Kyiv?
My parents are still currently in Kyiv. They do have the internet, so we've been able to communicate daily. That's been a huge help. My brother was able to leave to leave Kyiv for Western Ukraine. So I've been in contact with him. It took their family at least 2 days to make a trip that typically takes maybe 10 hours at most because of all the blockades and all the bullets they had to avoid to try to get there. Again, fortunately for now, there's still contact. I know that some of other relatives that my friends have lost contact in other cities. But for now, at least, I can talk to them, and they're okay.
What are they telling you? What are your parents telling you in one part of Ukraine, and what is your brother telling you in the other part of Ukraine?
Well, my parents are still considering leaving Kyiv, but at this point, it's very dangerous. The city is encircled. You probably have heard, and they confirmed this, that Irpin, one of the neighboring village cities, is occupied. There have been bombings in Spirit, which is also nearby. So getting out of the city is really problematic and dangerous. So they have to stay indoors most of the time. There are sirens going off regularly every day, several times throughout the day. Every time there's a bombing, they tend to go down into the basement of their apartment building. They have gone out to get groceries. For a while, there was nothing in the stores. My mom said maybe they were able to get some bread in, but the supplies have been small and limited. My brother is in Western Ukraine, so there the situation is a little bit more stable for now, but it's hard to find lodging, because there are a lot of refugees who are moving out of the east and moving out of central Ukraine and out of Kyiv and moving westward toward the Polish border. Some are able to get out. My brother is of fighting age, so he cannot go abroad. And that's a decision that he made for now to save his family, but he's still considering joining the territorial forces. My mother is signed up for the territorial forces to do what she can too. For now, they're just staying put and trying to stay out of the bullet.
Tell me the attitude, the mindset of your parents. By the way, how old are your parents?
They're both in their 70s.
They're both in their 70s. Okay. So are they afraid? Are they hopeful? What are their thoughts at this point?
You know, it's been a roller coaster for all of us. And at first, I think there was a lot of disbelief. And at some point, my mom just texted me saying they're bombing. I'm afraid. I'm scared. At that point, I called her because I thought like that was it. And at this point, I think on some level, like it's become normalized, which is even more horrific. She says, you know, there's a siren. I gotta go downstairs. So to me, that is becoming even more inhumane. That this has become their reality, their everyday life. It's day 13, and now they know that there are going to be sirens and bombings.
Will they have enough food? Will they have power to survive for the indefinite future?
I'm not sure. For now, they're okay. At least my parents are. I know that's not the case for a lot of folks. Their cities being razed, particularly in eastern Ukraine. There's nothing left for them. This is a huge problem. There are green corridors established that are meant to bring humanitarian aid, but I know of several accounts, including just now, that the Russians are not observing the green corridors. They're shooting at those convoys that are meant to bring humanitarian aid, which includes food and medical supplies and essentials. So I'm not entirely hopeful, but I really do want to hope against hope that aid is coming, particularly for those who are elderly or for those who are young and can't provide for themselves.
Yeah, one of the really rotten things, of the many rotten things that Putin and the Russians are doing, is they violate their own ceasefires, which are supposed to open up a window for humanitarian aid, and then once that window opens, they break their own ceasefire and start shooting at them. It's just horrible. So, if there's an opportunity, will your parents try to get out of the country, or have they resigned themselves to the fact that they have to stay in Kyiv?
This too is a developing situation. On some level, I think they realize that it may be too late to try to get out. There are lots of obstacles to getting out. Among others, the road signs have been taken down in order to obstruct and confuse the Russian tanks, but that also makes it difficult for Ukrainians to travel. And GPS is being interfered with, so there's a real logistical issue to getting out. There's also a very physical and material barrier to that the city is encircled. So I think they are considering leaving, but they're waiting for a time if and when that might be feasible, both in terms of the roads being available, but also not going into the heat.
All right, now let's get to your brother. Is he married? Does he have children? How old is he?
My brother is 46. He's married. He has a son. My nephew is 12, and they lived in the center of Kyiv. So they were right there in the epicenter of all the events at the very beginning. They spent the first weekend in a bomb shelter. There was a curfew, so they couldn't even leave. And at that point, I think he decided that they just had to go because he wanted to take them to safety. So for now, they're staying out in Western Ukraine where things are still stable, trying to wait out.
So they are, his son, does he have a wife?
Yes.
All right, so his wife and his son, are they trying to leave the country while he has to stay?
As of now, I don't think they are.
Okay. And your brother then, he is going to fight, or has he already started to fight? What's going on with him as far as the war goes?
For now, it was important for him to get his family to safety. That was his number one priority. And we'll see how things develop.
This must be just brutal on you. I mean, it's so gut-wrenching to watch just from afar. But how worried and concerned are you about your family, and for that matter, all of the Ukrainians who are stuck there under the senseless bombardment?
I'm terrified. I haven't really slept a full night's sleep in the past 2 weeks. It's horrifying.
Well, I'm so sorry to hear all of this. As you see the images from television and what's going on there, what's your reaction to what you're seeing?
There's a lot of human suffering and death. And one just hopes that every so often there is an optimistic message, and some of them have been, of the Ukrainians who are putting up a great fight and singing folk songs, and of old women making bread and bringing it to the soldiers. So it's a real mixed bag of emotional overkill, both the misery and the hope that comes out of those more optimistic messages of
Yeah.
opposition and resistance.
All right. And I want to talk about the spirit of the Ukrainians, but we have to take a break now. So when we come back, we will talk more with Anastassiya Andrianova right after this short break.